The Awakening. Chapter 1, The Watchers. Galactic Concord Central Observatory. Kepler Station, Neutral Zone. Year 3247, Galactic Standard. Observer First Class Vethan had been watching Earth for 47 cycles. 47 cycles of the same primitive broadcasts, the same tribal conflicts, the same self-destructive patterns. His species, the Kale Fairy, had been observing humanity since they first split the atom, a momentous and terrifying achievement that had immediately triggered Concord Protocol 7, advanced surveillance of potentially catastrophic species. The humans had not disappointed. Within decades of unlocking atomic power, they'd nearly destroyed themselves. Twice. Still killing each other over invisible lines on their planet, muttered Vethan's assistant, a young Kale Fairy named Cyril. She gestured at the holographic display showing Earth's surface. Small red dots indicated active conflicts. There were dozens. They always are, Vethan replied, his triple-jointed fingers dancing across the control interface. It's what they do. Fight, destroy, rebuild. Fight again. The predictive algorithms give them another 200 cycles before total collapse, Cyril said, reviewing the data streams. Maybe less if they continue accelerating their climate degradation. Vethan nodded slowly. The Concord's finest computational minds had modeled humanity's trajectory thousands of times. Every simulation ended the same way, extinction, either by war, environmental collapse, or resource depletion. It was simply a matter of when. Mark it in the log, Vethan said. Another cycle, another. The display flickered. Both observers froze. What was that? Cyril whispered. Vethan's hands moved faster now, pulling up system diagnostics. A glitch. The sensor array must have. The display flickered again. This time, it went completely dark. Then every alarm in the observatory began screaming at once. Chapter 2, The Silence. The emergency lights bathed the observatory in red. Vethan's heart analog hammered in his chest as he fought to bring the systems back online. Talk to me, Cyril. What's happening? I don't know. She was frantically swiping through backup systems. Primary sensors are offline. Secondary sensors are offline. Tertiary backups are, she stopped. Her face went pale. They're not offline. Then what? They're being blocked. Impossible. The Concord sensor network was the most sophisticated in the known galaxy. It could detect a single ship's engine signature from 3 star systems away. Nothing could block it. Nothing. Blocked by what? Vethan demanded. Unknown. The interference is originating from. Cyril's voice trailed off. She stared at the display, unblinking. From Sol 3. Earth. Vethan felt his blood run cold. That's impossible. Humans don't have the technology to. The sensors came back online. And then Vethan understood why Cyril had gone silent. On the display, just beyond the orbit of Neptune, was a contact. A single contact. The computer was struggling to render its size, recalculating over and over as if it couldn't believe its own measurements. Length, 19.2 kilometers. Mass, calculating. Energy signature, error, exceeds known scales. Classification, unknown. By the void, Vethan breathed. The ship was massive, larger than any vessel in the Concord fleet. Larger than the ancient dreadnoughts of the Vex Imperium. Larger than anything that should be able to move under its own power. And it was moving. Slowly. Deliberately. Out from the darkness of humanity's outer solar system. Send an alert to Concord Command, Vethan said, his voice shaking. Priority Alpha. Tell them the humans have built something. Cyril's hands trembled as she worked. What do I classify it as? Vethan stared at the impossible shape on his screen, angular, brutal, covered in armor plating that seemed to drink in the light of distant stars. Titan class, he whispered. Classify it as Titan class. But sir, there's no such classification. Titan class doesn't. It does now. Chapter 3, First Contact. Concord Emergency Council Chamber. 3 hours later. The council chamber erupted in chaos. This must be a sensor error. Humans can't build something like this, they're still using chemical rockets. We should have intervened decades ago. Silence. The voice belonged to High Chancellor Mordain, a towering figure from the ancient Zarathi species. His 4 eyes swept across the assembled delegates, and the room fell quiet. The data has been verified, Mordain said calmly. Multiple observer stations have confirmed the contact. It is real. It is massive. And it is human. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, the Atlas, rendered in stunning detail. Even as a projection, it was intimidating. How? Whispered Delegate Thress, her insectoid features twisted in confusion. How did they build this without us knowing? They didn't. The voice came from the back of the chamber. Commander Zolter, head of Concord Military Intelligence, stepped forward. We knew they were building something. We've been tracking increased industrial activity in their asteroid belt for the last 50 cycles. We assumed it was mining operations. Space stations. Nothing military. You assumed wrong, Mordain said coldly. Yes, Chancellor. Zolter bowed his head. We underestimated them. Underestimated? Another delegate laughed bitterly. They were killing each other with sticks and stones 3,000 cycles ago. And now this? They adapt, Zolter said quietly. It's what they do. The hologram rotated, showing the Atlas from every angle. Weapons batteries. Shield emitters. Engines that defied conventional physics. What are they planning to do with it? Someone asked. As if in answer, every communication system in the chamber suddenly activated. A voice filled the room. Human. Male. Calm. Attention, Galactic Concord. This is the UHSV Atlas, representing the United Human Systems. We are aware you have been watching us. We are aware you chose not to make contact. That is your right. But silence is no longer ours. We are here. We do not ask permission. We are ready to take our place among the stars. We request formal recognition and dialogue. Respond within 72 standard hours. Atlas out. The transmission ended. The council chamber sat in stunned silence. Finally, Mordain spoke, his voice heavy with a feeling the Concord had not known in centuries. Prepare the fleets. Just in case. The debate. Concord Emergency Council Chamber. Hour 6 after first contact. The emergency session had been going for 3 hours, and tempers were fraying. We should destroy it now, while we still can, roared Ambassador Krex, slamming his massive clawed fist on the table. The Ergolith were a warrior species, and Krex had little patience for debate. One Titan-class warship against the entire Concord fleet. The odds are in our favor. Are they? Chancellor Mordain's voice cut through the room like a blade. Commander Zolter, your assessment. Zolter stood, activating a tactical display. The Atlas appeared again, now surrounded by data streams and analysis projections. We've analyzed every available scan of the vessel, Zolter began. What we found is troubling. The hull composition is unknown, our sensors can't penetrate it. The energy signature suggests a power source operating at efficiency levels we've never encountered. And the weapons. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. We've identified at least 400 individual weapons emplacements. We don't know what they are, but the power conduits feeding them suggest they're drawing directly from the main reactor. If even a fraction of those systems are kinetic accelerators or energy weapons. How many ships would we lose? Mordain asked quietly. In a direct engagement? Zoltar's mandibles clicked nervously. Estimates range from 30 to 60% of any fleet we send. And that's assuming we're correct about their capabilities. If we're wrong, if they have technology we haven't accounted for, the losses could be total. The chamber fell silent. Delegate Thress spoke up, her voice sharp. You're saying one human ship could destroy an entire Concord battle fleet? I'm saying we don't know, Zoltar replied. And that uncertainty alone should terrify us. Ambassador Krex snorted. Cowardice. They're bluffing. That ship is probably a hollow shell, all show, no substance. Humans are emotional, impulsive. They built something big to scare us. Then why, asked Mordain, did they wait 3,000 years to reveal themselves? That stopped Krex cold. The human question. Mordain stood, his aged form still commanding respect. He'd led the Concord through 2 major wars and countless minor conflicts. He'd seen species rise and fall. But he'd never seen anything quite like this. Let us review what we know about humanity, he said, pacing slowly. They are fractious, 300 distinct nations on a single world. They war constantly over resources, ideology, religion. They have nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. By every metric we use to measure species stability, they should have collapsed millennia ago. Nods around the chamber. And yet, Mordain continued, they persist. They adapt. They overcome. Each time they reach the brink of extinction, they pull back. They learn. They change, not as a species evolves over millions of years, but within generations. He stopped, looking at each delegate in turn. 300 cycles ago, they were burning fossil fuels and fighting with chemical explosives. Today, they've built that. He gestured at the atlas. In the time it takes most species to perfect a single technology, humans have revolutionized their entire civilization. Multiple times. What are you saying, Chancellor? Asked Delegate Yamora, her crystalline form shimmering with anxiety. I'm saying we made a choice 3,000 years ago. We chose to watch and wait, believing they would destroy themselves. We were wrong. And now we must live with the consequences of that choice. You're suggesting we negotiate? Krex's voice dripped with contempt. I'm suggesting we don't rush into a war we might not win, Mordain replied coolly. They asked for dialogue. They didn't attack. They didn't threaten. They simply announced themselves. With a warship the size of a moon. Would you have announced yourself with anything less? Mordain asked. If you were humanity, isolated, watched, judged for millennia, how would you enter the galactic stage? With weakness? With apologies? The question hung in the air. The intelligence report. There's something else. Commander Zoltar activated another display. Our deep cover observers in the Sol system have been sending reports. Fragmentary, but consistent. The display showed images of Earth, gleaming cities, orbital stations, massive industrial complexes in the asteroid belt. Humanity is unified, Zoltar said. For the first time in their recorded history, they have a single planetary government. The United Human Systems. It formed 62 cycles ago, shortly after they detected our observation posts. Shocked murmurs rippled through the chamber. They knew we were watching. Delegate Thress sounded horrified. For decades, Zoltar confirmed. And they said nothing. They simply continued building. While we watched their surface conflicts and assumed they were still primitive, they were working in secret. The asteroid belt. The outer solar system. Places we couldn't easily monitor without revealing ourselves. He pulled up more data, population statistics, industrial output, technological advancement curves. Current human population, 47 billion, spread across Earth, Mars, Luna, and 6 major orbital habitats. Their industrial capacity is estimated at 70% of the entire Concorde's output. And they achieved this in less than 2 centuries of space-age development. Impossible, someone whispered. They don't sleep, Zoltar said quietly. Humans, I mean. Not like we do. They average 6 hours of rest per cycle. The rest of the time, they're working. Building. Learning. They're relentless. He closed the display. The Atlas isn't a bluff. It's a statement. And I believe there's more we haven't seen yet. The voice of reason. An elderly delegate stood, Elder Symposia of the Luminar Collective, one of the oldest and wisest species in the Concorde. She rarely spoke, but when she did, people listened. I have studied humanity for 200 cycles, she said, her voice soft but clear. I have watched their broadcasts, read their literature, analyzed their art. And I believe I understand something about them that we have missed. Every eye turned to her. Humans are terrified, she said simply. Not of us, of themselves. They know what they're capable of. They've seen their own darkness. And they fear, more than anything, becoming the monsters in their own stories. She gestured at the Atlas. That ship is not a weapon of conquest. It's a shield. They built it because they assumed, correctly, that we would not welcome them. That we would see them as threats. So they ensured that if we attacked, we would pay dearly. You're defending them? Krex snarled. I'm explaining them, Symposia replied calmly. There's a difference. Humans have a saying, walk softly and carry a big stick. The Atlas is their stick. But notice, they're walking softly. They asked for dialogue. They gave us time. They're trying to do this peacefully. And if we refuse, asked Mordain. Symposia's ancient eyes held his. Then we'll discover what happens when a species that has spent 3,000 years perfecting the art of war decides it has no other choice. The decision. Chancellor Mordain stood at the window of his private chamber, looking out at the stars. The Concorde represented 700 species, 10,000 worlds, and a civilization spanning 35,000 years. And he was afraid of one species with one ship. His communicator chimed. Chancellor, the vote is complete. He turned. And 412 in favor of diplomatic contact. 287 in favor of military action. The remainder abstained. Diplomatic contact had won. Barely. Prepare a response, Mordain said. We'll meet with them. On neutral ground. One representative from each side. Sir, if this goes wrong. Then it goes wrong, Mordain said quietly. But if we start a war today, it will be our choice. Not theirs. I won't have that on my conscience. He looked back at the stars, somewhere out there, the Atlas waited. Send the message. Tell them we accept their terms. Somewhere in the outer Sol system. UHSV Atlas, Command Bridge. Admiral Sarachan watched the incoming transmission decrypt on her screen. She was 58 years old, a veteran of the Mars insurrection and the architect of humanity's unified military doctrine. She read the Concorde's response once. Twice. Then she smiled. They accepted, she said to her bridge crew. Stand down from combat alert. Initiate first contact protocols. Her first officer, Commander Marcus Webb, let out a breath he'd been holding for 3 days. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. We got through the door, Chen corrected. Now comes the hard part, convincing them we deserve to stay. She stood, straightening her uniform. But at least now, they're listening. Outside the bridge viewports, the Atlas's running lights pulsed in the darkness, a beacon announcing humanity's arrival. Neutral ground. The Meridian Station. Neutral territory, border of Concorde space. 12 days after first contact. The station had been built centuries ago as a diplomatic hub, a place where species could meet without the weight of territory or military presence. It floated in the void between stars, equidistant from three major civilizations, belonging to none. Today, it would host the most important meeting in galactic history. Chancellor Mordain arrived first, flanked by a small security detail and 3 senior diplomats. They waited in the Grand Negotiation Hall, a circular chamber with transparent walls offering a view of the surrounding nebula. Beautiful, and deliberately vulnerable. A reminder that here, power meant nothing. "They're late," muttered Ambassador Krex, who'd insisted on attending despite his opposition to the talks. "By 3 minutes," Delegate Thress corrected. "Hardly." The station's docking alert chimed. Every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously, showing the approach vector. The shuttle was small, sleek, and completely black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Stealth technology. Military grade. Of course they'd arrive in a warship's shuttle, Krex grumbled. But Mordain noticed something else. The shuttle was broadcasting its position openly. No attempt to hide. No attempt to surprise. They wanted to be seen approaching. "They're being respectful," Elder Symposia observed, arriving just in time. "Showing they have the capability for stealth, but choosing not to use it." The shuttle docked. Mordain's security chief activated internal sensors. 3 life signs. 1 human, 2 artificial. "Explain," Mordain demanded. "Synthetic. Not organic. Robots, perhaps." The airlock cycled. And humanity walked into the chamber. The Admiral. Admiral Sarah Chen was not what Mordain had expected. She was small, barely 1.6 meters tall, and moved with the careful precision of someone who'd spent years in low gravity. Her hair was steel gray, tied back in a practical bun. Her uniform was dark blue, simple, with minimal ornamentation. She looked more like a scholar than a warrior. But her eyes, brown, sharp, calculating, missed nothing. Behind her walked 2 towering figures. Humanoid in shape, but clearly artificial. Smooth metal frames, glowing optical sensors, carrying no visible weapons but radiating an aura of barely contained lethality. "Autonomous combat units," Zolter whispered from his position behind Mordain. "Military-grade AI. Banned by 17 Concord treaties." Chen stopped at the center of the chamber, exactly the prescribed distance from the Concord delegation. She stood at attention, then bowed, a human gesture of respect. "Chancellor Mordain," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I am Admiral Sarah Chen, Commander of the United Human Systems Defense Fleet. These are my security officers, Sentinel-7 and Sentinel-12. The robots bowed in perfect synchronization. Mordain returned the bow, noting how Chen's eyes tracked every member of his delegation with professional efficiency. "Admiral Chen. Welcome to Meridian Station. I am Chancellor Mordain of the Galactic Concord. We have much to discuss." "We do," Chen agreed. She gestured to her escorts. "I should note that Sentinels 7 and 12 are armed, as I'm sure your sensors have detected. However, their weapons are safe and locked to my biometric authorization. They will not act unless I command it." "Your honesty is appreciated," Mordain replied. "Though I must note that the Concord has treaties prohibiting autonomous military AI." Chen's expression didn't change. "The Concord has many treaties. We've signed none of them. Yet." The word hung in the air. "Yet." "Shall we sit?" Mordain suggested. Opening moves. They took positions around the negotiation table, a flat circle designed so no one sat at the head. "Equals, at least in theory." Mordain began. "Admiral, I'll speak plainly. Your arrival has caused considerable concern within the Concord. The Atlas represents a significant escalation of military capability. Some see it as a threat. Some. Chen asked. Her eyes flicked to Krex, who bristled. Many, Mordain corrected. The question we must answer today is simple: what are humanity's intentions? Chen folded her hands on the table. Our intentions are equally simple, Chancellor. We wish to join the galactic community as equals. We wish to trade, to learn, to grow. We've been alone long enough. With a 19-kilometer warship. Would you have taken us seriously without it? The question caught Mordain off guard. Chen pressed her advantage. Chancellor, we've known about the Concord for 63 years. We've intercepted your observation posts. We've decoded your broadcasts. We've watched you watching us. And we noticed something interesting. She activated a holographic display from her wrist device, images of various species making first contact with the Concord throughout history. Every species that approached you from a position of weakness was either absorbed into your systems, exploited for resources, or isolated on their homeworld with protective sanctions that prevented development. Only species that arrived with military strength were granted true partnership. Mordain said nothing. She was right. Chen continued. We're not fools, Chancellor. We won't apologize for building the Atlas. It was necessary. But we don't want war. We want respect. Respect is earned, Krex interjected. Not demanded. Chen turned to face him fully. Ambassador Krex of the Ergolith Dominion. Your species achieved spaceflight 9,000 years ago after conquering 3 neighboring species and claiming their technology. You joined the Concord only after a 70-year war proved you couldn't be defeated conventionally. Krex's face darkened, but Chen wasn't finished. Delegate Thress, your people were accepted after demonstrating advanced biological weapons that terrified half the galaxy. Elder Symposia, the Luminar Collective earned their seat by mastering energy manipulation to the point where you could destabilize stars. She looked around the table. Every powerful species in this room earned their place through strength. We're doing exactly what you did. The only difference is that we did it faster. The truth. Silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Elder Symposia spoke. You've studied us well, Admiral. We've had nothing else to do for 60 years, Chen replied. While you watched us, we watched you. We learned your languages. Your customs. Your histories. We know exactly what you think of us. And what is that? Mordain asked quietly. Chen's expression hardened. You think we're children playing with fire. Violent, emotional, unstable. You expected us to destroy ourselves. Some of you were probably betting on when it would happen. No one contradicted her. You're right, Chen said simply. About all of it. That got their attention. We are violent, Chen continued. We've fought wars over everything, resources, ideology, religion, even skin color. We've committed atrocities that shame our entire species. We've built weapons capable of rendering our own planet uninhabitable, and we've come terrifyingly close to using them. She stood, walking to the transparent wall, looking out at the stars. But we didn't. At the last moment, every time, we pulled back. We chose survival over destruction. Unity over division. And 47 billion humans are alive today because of those choices. She turned back to face them. You want to know why we built the Atlas? It wasn't just to impress you. It was to prove something to ourselves. That we could work together. That we could channel our aggressive instincts into creation rather than destruction. That ship represents every human on Earth, Mars, Luna, and the habitats. Every engineer, every scientist, every worker. It's proof that we've changed. Words, Krex said dismissively. Actions matter. I agree, Chen replied. Which is why I'm prepared to make a gesture of good faith. She tapped her wrist device. On every screen in the chamber, detailed technical schematics appeared, the atlas, laid bare. Power systems, weapons arrays, shield generators, everything. Zoltar gasped. These are complete technical specifications. They are, Chen confirmed. Full disclosure. You want to know what we're capable of? There it is. Study it. Analyze it. Understand it. This is madness. Krex snarled. You're showing us your weaknesses. Chen smiled coldly. Am I? Or am I showing you that even knowing everything about the Atlas, you still can't easily defeat it? That's the difference between a threat and a deterrent, Ambassador. The offer. Mordain studied the schematics, his ancient mind racing. The technology was astounding, decades ahead of Concord standards in some areas. But more than that, it was the philosophy behind it. The Atlas wasn't built to conquer. It was built to survive. What do you want from us, Admiral? He asked. Recognition, Chen said immediately. A seat at the Concord. Access to trade routes. Protection under galactic law. The same rights any member species enjoys. In exchange for. We'll abide by Concord law. We'll contribute to mutual defense. We'll share technology, not everything, not immediately, but gradually, as trust is built. She paused. And we'll bring something you desperately need. Which is? Chen's smile was grim. Humans are very, very good at war, Chancellor. You've had peace for 3 centuries. But peace doesn't last forever. When the next threat comes, and it will, you'll want us on your side. Is that a threat? Krex demanded. It's a fact, Chen replied. There are species beyond your borders that you've been nervously watching for decades. The Karvax swarm. The Void Striders. Empires that make the Concord look small. They haven't moved against you yet, but they will. She leaned forward. When that day comes, you'll need warriors. Not just soldiers, warriors. People who understand violence at a fundamental level. Who can outthink, outfight, and outlast any enemy. And you believe humanity is that species? Symposia asked. I know we are, Chen said. Because we've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We've mastered every form of warfare imaginable. We know how to win against impossible odds because we've done it, again and again, against ourselves. She stood tall, despite her small frame. The galaxy kept us isolated because they feared what we'd become. I'm here to tell you, that moment has passed. We've already become it. The only question now is whether we're your allies or your problem. The vote. Mordain called for a recess. The Concord delegation gathered in a private chamber. She's right about the external threats, Zoltar said quietly. Intelligence has been tracking increased Karvax activity near the frontier. If they move in force. We'd need every advantage, Mordain finished. He looked at his advisors. Opinions? I don't trust them, Krex said immediately. This could be a trick. To what end? Symposia asked. They've shown us their capabilities. Given us their secrets. What more could they do to prove good faith? They could disarm that warship, Krex snapped. Would you? Symposia countered. In their position. Delegate Thress spoke up. The Admiral is, impressive. Frightening, but impressive. And she's not lying, I'd stake my reputation on that. The question isn't whether she's lying, Mordain said. It's whether we can afford to say no. He looked at each of them. If we reject them, they return to their system. They continue building. In 50 years, they'll have 10 ships like the Atlas. In 100, they'll have a fleet that rivals our own. And then they won't be asking permission. So we accept out of fear? Krex asked. We accept out of pragmatism, Mordain replied. Better to have them inside the Concord, bound by our laws and treaties, than outside as a growing threat. He stood. I'm going to recommend acceptance. Limited membership at first, with conditions. But acceptance. Chapter 15, The Handshake. They returned to the negotiation chamber. Admiral Chen stood as they entered, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. Mordain sat, and chose his words carefully. Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Concord, I am prepared to offer humanity provisional membership, pending ratification by the full Council. This would grant you limited trade rights, observer status in Concord sessions, and protection under galactic law. Chen's expression didn't change. Conditions? 3. First, the Atlas must be registered with Concord Military Command and subject to inspection. Second, your autonomous combat AI must be modified to meet Concord safety standards. Third, humanity must accept a Concord embassy on Earth and allow cultural exchange programs. Chen considered this for exactly 3 seconds. Accepted. With one addition. Which is? We want a seat on the Concord Security Council within 5 years. Full membership, full voting rights. Krex laughed. Impossible. That takes decades. We don't have decades, Chen interrupted. You said it yourself, threats are growing. You need us now, not in 20 years. Give us a path to full membership, and we'll prove we deserve it. Mordain met her eyes. Saw the determination there. The absolute refusal to be dismissed. 10 years, he said. 7. 8. Final offer. Chen smiled. Done. She extended her hand, a human gesture. Mordain hesitated, then reached out. Their hands clasped. Welcome to the Galactic Concord, Admiral Chen. May your people find the peace they seek. May we all, Chancellor, Chen replied. But as their hands separated, Mordain saw something in her eyes. Not peace. Readiness. Humanity hadn't built the Atlas for peace. They'd built it for the war they knew was coming. And somehow, that terrified him more than anything else. Outside, the Atlas maintained its position, silent and watchful. Humanity had arrived. The galaxy would learn what that meant. To be continued.